Dr. Maya Rodriguez had been dreaming of this moment for 15 years. As a space scientist, she had spent her whole career studying planets far from Earth. Now, at 32, she was finally getting her chance to visit one of them. The planet they called K44b was supposed to be perfect for research. The computers back on Earth said it might even have life. But dreams can become nightmares in seconds. Maya was sleeping in her small research pod when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. Her ship's computer was saying something about engine failure, but the words got lost in all the noise. She grabbed her emergency suit and strapped herself in just as the pod started spinning out of control. The next thing she knew, she was waking up in a pile of twisted metal and snow. Her head hurt badly, and she could taste blood in her mouth. The pod had crashed into what looked like a frozen valley. Pieces of her equipment were scattered everywhere, some still smoking from the crash. Maya tried to stand up, but her legs felt weak. She looked around and realized she was in serious trouble. This planet was nothing like what the reports had said. Instead of the mild climate they expected, everything was covered in thick ice and snow. The sky was a strange purple color, and there were 2 small suns hanging low on the horizon. She checked her suit's readings and felt her heart sink. The temperature outside was 40 degrees below zero, and it was getting colder fast. Even worse, her suit's heating system had been damaged in the crash. A small screen showed yellow warning lights where there should have been green ones. Maya knew she had maybe 6 hours before the cold would kill her. She had to find shelter, and fast. She started gathering whatever supplies she could find. Her emergency food kit was still good, and she found a small water recycler that seemed to work. But the most important thing, her communication device, was broken. The screen was cracked, and it wouldn't turn on no matter what she tried. As she worked, Maya noticed something strange. The snow around her crash site had odd patterns in it, almost like someone had been walking there. But the tracks didn't look like any animal she knew. They were too big, too organized. Almost like footprints, but not quite human. The thought that she might not be alone on this planet scared her and gave her hope at the same time. If there was life here, maybe they could help her. But what if they were dangerous? What if they saw her as a threat? Maya pushed these thoughts away. She had to focus on staying alive. The 2 suns were setting, and she could already feel the temperature dropping even more. Her breath was starting to freeze in the air, creating small clouds every time she exhaled. She found a large piece of her pod's hull that could work as a windbreak. Using her emergency tools, she managed to build a small shelter against a rocky wall. It wasn't much, but it might keep her alive through the night. As darkness fell, the cold became unbearable. Maya huddled in her makeshift shelter, trying to conserve body heat. Her suit's backup heating system was working, but just barely. She could feel the cold creeping through the damaged areas, making her fingers and toes go numb. That's when she saw them, strange blue lights moving in the distance, floating just above the snow. They moved in patterns that seemed too organized to be natural. Sometimes they would stop and pulse brighter, like they were communicating with each other. Maya's scientific mind was fascinated, but her survival instincts were screaming at her to hide. She made herself as small as possible and watched the lights through a crack in her shelter. They seemed to be getting closer. Then she heard it. It sounded like nothing she had ever heard before. It was almost like singing, but deeper and more complex. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, vibrating through the ground and the air. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Maya realized the lights were connected to the sounds. Whatever was making them was intelligent. They were trying to communicate, maybe even with her. She had to make a choice. Should she try to make contact with these unknown beings, or should she hide and hope they would go away? The cold was making the decision for her. Her suit's heating system was failing faster than she had expected. The warning lights were turning from yellow to red, and she could feel herself getting weaker. Her thoughts were becoming fuzzy, which she knew was a sign of hypothermia. Maya looked at her emergency beacon. It was designed to call for help, but it would take months for any rescue ship to reach her. She didn't have months. She probably didn't even have days. The blue lights were now very close to her shelter. She could see shadows moving outside, tall shapes that looked almost human but different. Her scientific training told her to be careful, to study them first. But her survival instincts were telling her something else entirely. She was going to die on this frozen planet unless she did something brave. Maybe these beings could help her. Maybe they would try to hurt her. But staying hidden meant certain death, and reaching out meant at least a chance to live. Maya took a deep breath and made her choice. She was going to make contact with whatever was out there. She just hoped she would live long enough to learn whether it was the right decision. The blue lights stopped moving. The singing sounds got quieter. Something was about to happen, and Maya knew her life would never be the same. Maya's hands were shaking as she slowly pushed open the flap of her shelter. The blue lights had stopped moving, and the strange singing sounds had gone quiet. Everything was still, like the whole planet was holding its breath. She crawled out. Into the snow, her damaged suit making soft, beeping sounds with each movement. The cold hit her face like a slap, making her eyes water. But she had to see what was out there. She had to know if she was about to meet her end or find her salvation. Standing about 20 feet away was the most incredible thing Maya had ever seen. It looked like a person, but taller and different. Much taller. The being had to be at least 7 feet high, with broad shoulders and long arms. Its skin wasn't really skin at all, but something that looked like thick, silvery fur that seemed to glow softly in the darkness. The creature's eyes were the most amazing part. They were large and golden, like 2 small suns, and they seemed to look right through her. There was intelligence there, Maya could tell. This wasn't just an animal. This was someone, not something. Maya tried to speak, but her voice came out as a weak whisper. "Hello," she managed to say, her breath creating a small cloud in the freezing air. The being tilted its head, watching her carefully. It took a step closer, and Maya could see that it moved with grace, despite its size. Its feet were bigger than human feet, probably to help it walk on the snow without sinking. Then something unexpected happened. The creature made a sound, but it wasn't the strange singing from before. It was softer, almost like a purr. And somehow, Maya knew it was trying to be friendly. She pointed to herself. "Maya," she said slowly. "My name is Maya." The being watched her finger, then pointed to itself. It made a sound that was like a mix between a hum and a whistle. Maya tried to copy it, but her human voice couldn't make the same sound. The creature seemed to understand, and made the sound again, slower this time. "I'll call you Zeph," Maya said, picking a name that sounded a little like the sound it made. The being seemed to accept this, nodding in a way that was almost human. Zeph could see that Maya was in trouble. Even though they were from different worlds, it was obvious she was freezing. Her skin was pale, and she was shivering badly. Strange, thin covering wasn't keeping her warm at all. Zeph looked at Maya's broken shelter and made a sound that seemed sad. Then it pointed to itself and gestured toward the mountains in the distance. It was clear that Zeph was trying to tell Maya something important. Maya understood. Zeph was offering to take her somewhere warmer, hopefully. But could she trust this alien being? What if it was leading her into danger? She looked back at her shelter, then at the red warning lights on her suit. She was going to die. Here, if she stayed. At least with Zeph she had a chance. Maya nodded and pointed toward the mountains. "Yes," she said, "please help me." Zeph seemed to understand. It moved closer to Maya, and she could feel warmth coming from its body. The silvery fur wasn't just for show, it was like a natural heating system. Being near Zeph was like standing next to a fireplace, but then Zeph did something that surprised Maya even more. It took off what looked like a thick coat made from the same silvery material as its natural fur. Zeph wrapped the coat around Maya's shoulders, and immediately, she felt warmer than she had since the crash. The coat was amazing. It was light, but incredibly warm, and it seemed to adjust to her body temperature. Maya looked up at Zeph with gratitude. This being had just given her its own coat, even though they had just met. "Thank you," Maya said, and she meant it more than she had ever meant anything in her life. Zeph made that purring sound again, then gently took Maya's arm. Its touch was warm and careful. It started walking toward the mountains, moving slowly so Maya could keep up. As they walked, Maya noticed More things about Zeph. It had 4 fingers on each hand instead of 5, and its feet were almost like snowshoes. Every few steps, it would look back to make sure Maya was still following and still okay. The journey to wherever Zeph was taking her was hard for Maya. Even with the warm coat, she was still weak from the crash and the cold. Her legs felt like rubber, and she had to stop several times to catch her breath. Each time she stopped, Zeph would wait patiently. Once, when Maya stumbled and almost fell, Zeph caught her with one strong arm. Maya was surprised by how gentle it was, despite being so much bigger and stronger than her. After what felt like hours of walking, they reached a place where steam was rising from the ground. Maya could see that it was some kind of hot spring, surrounded by rocks that looked like they had been carefully arranged. This was Zeph's home. The area around the hot spring was much warmer than the rest of the planet. There were even some plants growing there, strange purple and blue things that Maya had never seen before. It was like a little piece of paradise. In the middle of the frozen world, Zeph led Maya to a cave near the hot spring. The cave was warm and dry, with what looked like a bed made of soft plant materials. There were even some supplies there, containers that might hold food or water, and tools that Maya didn't recognize but looked useful. Maya sat down on the soft bed and felt herself truly relax for the first time since the crash. She was warm. She was safe, and she was alive. All because this strange, wonderful being had decided to help her. Zeph sat down across from her, watching her with those golden eyes. Maya could tell it was curious about her, just like she was curious about it. They were both scientists in their own way. Trying to understand something completely new, Maya smiled at Zeph, and to her amazement, Zeph smiled back. The expression was different from a human smile, but the meaning was the same. They were going to be friends. Maya woke up feeling better than she had in days. The warm cave and Zeph's coat had saved her life, but now she faced a new challenge. How was she going to survive on this alien planet for who knows how long? Zeph was already awake, sitting by the cave entrance and watching the purple sky. When Maya stirred, those golden eyes turned to her with what looked like concern. Zeph made a soft humming sound that Maya was beginning to understand meant good morning, or are you okay? I'm better, Maya said, sitting up slowly. Thank you for saving me. Over the next few days, Maya learned that Zeph was not just kind, but also incredibly smart. The alien being seemed to understand that Maya needed different things to survive than Zeph did. Where Zeph could eat the purple plants that grew around the hot springs, Maya needed something else entirely. Zeph disappeared for several hours one morning and came back carrying strange round objects that looked like potatoes. They were blue instead of brown, but when Zeph cooked them over the hot spring steam, they tasted surprisingly good. Maya's stomach had been growling for hours, and the food was exactly what she needed. How did you know I could eat these? Maya asked, pointing to the blue vegetables. Zeph touched its chest, then pointed to Maya's chest. Then it made eating motions. Maya realized that somehow Zeph had figured out that they both needed similar types of food to survive. Weren't so different after all. The communication between them was getting easier every day. They had started a simple game where Maya would point to things and say the English word, and Zeph would respond with sounds from its own language. Maya learned that Zeph's word for water sounded like wind chimes, and the word for food was like a bird's song. But the biggest breakthrough came when Maya found her broken communication device in her pack. The screen was cracked, but some of the circuits still worked. Maya had an idea. She spent hours rewiring the device, using parts from her damaged suit. Zeph watched with fascination as Maya worked with the tiny electronic pieces. Sometimes Zeph would hand her tools without being asked, as if understanding exactly what she needed. Finally, Maya got the device working again. Not as a radio, but as a basic translator. She programmed it with the words they had been teaching each other, and slowly, a simple translation system began to work. Can you understand this? Maya asked, holding up the device. The device made a series of musical sounds, and Zeph's eyes went wide, responded with its own sounds, and the device translated back to Maya. Yes, I understand. This is amazing. Maya felt tears in her eyes. For the first time since the crash, she could really talk to someone.
Ow.
What is your real name? Maya asked through the device. My name is like the sound of wind through ice crystals, came the translation. But I like the sound you make for me. Zeph is good. Maya learned that Zeph's people were called the thermals because they could control their body temperature. They lived in small groups around the planet's hot springs and geothermal areas. Most of them lived alone, only coming together for special occasions. Why do you live alone? Maya asked. We are taught to be independent, Zeph explained. I have always been curious about other life. I studied the plants and animals that others ignore. When I saw your metal pod fall from the sky, I had to investigate. Maya realized how lucky she was.
Ow.
Most of Zeph's people might have ignored her completely. But Zeph was different, a scientist and explorer, just like her. In return, Maya told Zeph about Earth, about humans, and about her mission to study other planets. She showed Zeph pictures on her device of forests and oceans, cities, and people. Zeph was fascinated by everything, asking questions that showed real intelligence and curiosity. Your world has so much life, Zeph said. We have only a few types of plants and animals. I've always wondered what other worlds might be like. As the weeks passed, Maya and Zeph developed a routine. In the mornings, they would explore the area around the hot springs. Zeph taught Maya which plants were safe to eat and which ones to avoid. Maya learned to recognize the signs of approaching storms and how to find shelter quickly. Zeph also taught Maya about the planet's weather patterns. The storms here were unlike anything on Earth. They brought not just snow and wind, but also electrical displays that lit up the sky in brilliant colors. Maya learned to read the signs that meant a storm was coming and how to prepare for it. In the afternoons, they would work on improving Maya's equipment. Zeph had strong hands and was surprisingly good at helping with delicate repairs. Together, they managed to fix Maya's water recycler and even improve her shelter. But the most important thing they shared was knowledge. Maya taught Zeph about science and technology, while Zeph taught Maya about survival and the natural world. They learned each other's languages, customs, and ways of thinking. Maya began to realize that Zeph was changing her in ways she never expected. Before the crash, she had been focused only on her career and her research. She had always worked alone, never really connecting with other people. But with Zeph, she felt understood in a way she never had before. Zeph seemed to be changing too. The alien being had always been curious, but now it was learning to share that curiosity with someone else. They would spend hours discussing the mysteries of the universe, comparing what they knew about their different worlds. One evening, as they sat by the hot spring watching the stars, Maya realized something that surprised her. She wasn't just surviving on this planet anymore. She was actually happy. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had found someone who truly understood her. The warmth that had started as a way to keep from freezing had become something much more important. It was the warmth of friendship, understanding, and connection. Maya looked at Zeph and smiled, knowing that whatever happened next, she would never be the same person who had crashed on this planet weeks ago. 3 months had passed since Maya's crash, and life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. She had almost forgotten what it felt like to worry about survival every day. The cave by the hot springs had become home, and Zeph had become the best friend she'd ever had. That's why the beeping sound from her emergency beacon felt like a punch to the stomach. Maya was collecting the blue vegetables for breakfast when she heard it, a steady beep 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 coming from her pack. Her heart started racing as she ran back to the cave, calling for Zeph. What is that sound? Zeph asked, concern clear in those golden eyes. Maya's hands were shaking as she pulled out the beacon. The little screen was flashing green for the first time since the crash. It's a signal, she whispered. My people, they're looking for me. She activated the beacon's response system, and immediately a voice crackled through the static.
This
Is Captain Torres of the rescue ship Horizon. Dr. Rodriguez, if you can hear this, please respond. We have your location and are planning a rescue mission. Maya stared at the device, unable to speak. Zeph moved closer, and she could feel the warmth radiating from the alien's body. It was the same warmth that had saved her life, But now, it felt different. Now it felt like something she might lose. Maya? Zef's voice was soft through the translator. Are you happy about this news? Maya looked up at Zef and realized she didn't know how to answer. She should be happy, shouldn't she? She should be excited about going home, about returning to her old life, but all she felt was confusion and sadness. I don't know, she admitted. Over the next few days, Maya stayed in contact with the rescue ship. Captain Torres explained that it would take them 3 weeks to reach her location. They had brought special equipment to help with the rescue, and they were excited to hear about her discoveries on the planet. But Maya found herself dreading each conversation with the rescue team. They kept asking about her research, about what she had learned about the specimens she might have collected. When they asked about life on the planet, Maya found herself being vague about Zef. I've observed some interesting life forms, she told them. I'll have a full report when you arrive. How could she explain Zef in a report? How could she describe the kindness, the intelligence, the friendship they had built? The rescue team would see Zef as just another alien to study, not as the person who had saved her life and changed her heart. Zef noticed Maya's mood changing. The alien being had always been sensitive to Maya's feelings, but now it seemed to understand that something important was happening. You are sad about leaving? Zef observed one evening as they sat by the hot springs. Maya nodded, tears starting to form in her eyes. I don't know what to do, Zef. I have a life back on Earth. I have work, responsibilities. People are counting on me. But you are not happy about returning to that life, Zef said gently. No, Maya whispered. I'm not. 3 months with you have been the happiest of my life. I've learned more about myself here than I did in 32 years on Earth. Zef was quiet for a long moment. My people have a saying, it finally said. The heart knows its home before the mind accepts it. Maya looked at Zef with surprise. What does that mean? It means that sometimes we find where we belong in places we never expected to look. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Earth, about her small apartment, and her lonely research lab. She thought about her colleagues, who respected her work, but didn't really know her as a person. She thought about her family, who loved her, but had never really understood her passion for science. Then she thought about about the way the alien being listened to her ideas with genuine interest, about how they had learned to communicate across the vast differences between their species, about how Zef had saved her life and then made that life worth living. Maya realized that she had been thinking about the choice all wrong. It wasn't about choosing between Earth and this planet. It was about choosing between the person she used to be and the person she had become. The next morning, Maya called the rescue ship with a strange request. Captain Torres, I need to know something. Would it be possible to establish a research station here? A permanent base for studying this planet? The captain's voice was confused. Dr. Rodriguez, are you feeling all right? You've been isolated for months. It's natural to feel attached to your survival situation, but once you're back on Earth, you'll feel better. I'm thinking clearly, Captain. This planet has life forms that need long-term study. I could do more good here than anywhere else. Maya, you're not thinking straight. You need to come home. But Maya was thinking more clearly than she ever had in her life. She looked at Zef, who was watching her with those understanding golden eyes. Zef, she said, what if I stayed? What if I made this my home? Zef's expression was hard to read. Maya, I cannot ask you to give up your world for mine. That would not be fair to you. You're not asking, Maya said. I'm choosing. Need to know, ... Would you want me to stay? Zef was quiet for a long moment. Every day since your rescue signal came, I've been preparing myself to say goodbye. I told myself it was the right thing, that you belonged with your own people. But if I am honest, losing you would be like losing the sun. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Then help me figure out how to stay. The rescue ship was still 3 weeks away. Maya had 3 weeks to convince them that staying was the right choice. 3 weeks to prove that she could build a life on this planet that would benefit both worlds. She looked at Zef and saw not just a friend, but a partner in the greatest adventure of her life. The warmth between them had grown into something neither of them had expected, but both of them treasured. "We need a plan," Maya said, taking Zeph's large hand in her smaller one. "A plan to build a bridge between our worlds." Zeph squeezed her hand gently. "Then let's build one together." The rescue ship arrived exactly 3 weeks later, just as Captain Torres had promised. Maya watched from the hot springs as the large vessel descended from the purple sky, its engines creating clouds of steam as they met the cold air. Her heart was pounding, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from excitement. She and Zeph had spent every day of those 3 weeks preparing for this moment. Captain Torres and his team were amazed by what they found. Instead of a half-crazy survivor, desperate for rescue, they met a confident scientist who had built something incredible. Maya had used her 3 months on the planet to create detailed studies of the ecosystem, the weather patterns, and most importantly, the intelligent life she had discovered. "Dr. Rodriguez," Captain Torres said, looking around the warm cave with surprise. "This is not what we expected to find." "I know," Maya said with a smile. "It's better than what I expected to find too." She introduced the rescue team to Zeph, and their reactions were everything Maya had hoped for. Instead of fear or suspicion, they showed wonder and respect. Zeph had prepared for this meeting too, learning some basic English phrases and demonstrating the remarkable intelligence that had first attracted Maya. "This is incredible," Dr. Chen, the team's biologist, whispered as Zeph showed them the sustainable food cultivation system they had developed. "You've created a functional interspecies research partnership." Maya had prepared a presentation that took the rescue team's breath away. She had documented everything: the planet's unique ecosystem, the thermal people's advanced understanding of geothermal energy, and the potential for long-term scientific collaboration. "Captain," Maya said, "I'm not asking you to abandon me. Here, I'm asking you to help me establish the first permanent human research station on an alien world. Think about what we could learn. Think about what we could teach each other." The discussions went on for hours. The rescue team had come expecting to take Maya home, but they found themselves considering something much more ambitious. Maya's research data was too valuable to ignore, and her partnership with Zeph proved that peaceful cooperation between species was possible. Dr. Chen was especially excited. "Maya, if we could establish a research station here, you could study the thermal people's natural temperature regulation. It could revolutionize medicine back on Earth. And Zeph's people could learn about our technology," Maya added. "We could share knowledge in ways that benefit both our worlds." Captain Torres was practical as always. It would be expensive. We'd need to send regular supply ships, communication equipment, more researchers. "But think about the return on investment," Maya argued. "We'd be pioneers in interspecies cooperation. The scientific discoveries alone would be worth it." The breakthrough came when Zeph offered to help. Through the translator, the alien being explained that there were other thermal communities across the planet, each with their own specialties and knowledge. Some were experts in geology, others in biology, still others in what could only be called alien engineering. "My people have been alone for so long," Zeph explained. "Meeting Maya has shown us that there is so much more to learn about the universe. We would welcome the chance to share knowledge with humans." 3 days later, Captain Torres made the call that would change everything. "Mission Control, this is Captain Torres. We're going to need to modify our mission parameters. Dr. Rodriguez has discovered something that requires a permanent research presence." Maya felt tears of joy in her eyes as she listened to the captain explain the situation to Earth. The rescue mission was becoming a colonization mission, and she was going to be the first human ambassador to an alien world. But the most important moment came that evening. When the rescue team had returned to their ship for the night, by the hot springs, watching the stars in the purple sky. "Wait, are you sure about this?" Zeph asked. "Once your people establish a station here, your life will change completely. You'll have responsibilities, other humans to work with. It won't be just us anymore." Maya took Zeph's hand. "Zeph, when I crashed on this planet, I thought I was going to die, but you saved me. You gave me warmth when I was freezing, food when I was hungry, and friendship when I was alone. But more than that, you showed me who I really am." "What do you mean on Earth?" I was just another scientist. I worked alone, lived alone, and never really connected with anyone. But here, with you, I learned that I'm someone who can build bridges between worlds. I'm someone who can help others understand each other. Zeph squeezed her hand gently. You've given me gifts too, Maya. You showed me that curiosity and knowledge are meant to be shared. You taught me that friendship can exist between any two beings who are willing to understand each other. Maya smiled. Then we're both different people than we were 3 months ago. Yes, Zeph agreed. We are.
Ow!
2 years later, the research station was thriving. Maya had been joined by 12 other human scientists, and they worked alongside 15 thermal researchers in a facility that had been built around the original hot springs. The station had become a model for interspecies cooperation visited by diplomats and scientists from across the galaxy. Maya had been promoted to Director of Interspecies Research, a position that had been created specifically for her. She spent her days coordinating research projects, facilitating communication between human and thermal scientists, and documenting discoveries that were changing how both species understood the universe. But the most important part of her life was still her relationship with Zeph. They had become true partners in every sense. Working together on research projects and sharing the daily joys and challenges of building a new kind of community, on quiet evenings, they would still sit by the hot springs, just the two of them, watching the stars and talking about the future. The physical warmth that had saved Maya's life had evolved into something much deeper, a warmth of understanding, partnership, and love that transcended species. Do you ever regret staying? Zeph asked one evening. Maya looked around at the research station, at the humans and thermals working together at the life they had built. Then she looked at Zeph, whose golden eyes still held the same kindness that had first saved her life. Never, she said. This is where I belong. This is home. The warmth that had started as a simple act of survival had become the foundation for something bigger than either of them had imagined. It had become a bridge between worlds, a symbol of what was possible when different beings chose to understand rather than fear each other. Maya had found her home in the most unexpected place, and in doing so, she had helped create a new kind of warmth that would spread throughout the galaxy for generations to come.